In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the absolute value of x. So sometimes it's written as this, a, b, s, and then x. So the absolute value of x is really the distance away from the origin. So this is your number line. I could ask you, what is the absolute value of negative 3? Well, negative 3 is right here. The absolute value of negative 3 is a distance away from the origin. Well, the origin's here, so it's really 3 away from the origin. So the answer to the absolute value of negative 3 is the number 3. What is the absolute value of the number 2? Well, 2 is here. What is the distance away from the origin? Well, the distance away from the origin is 2. What is the absolute value of negative 5? Well, negative 5 is here. How far away from the origin is it? Well, it's actually 5 away. So really, you in effect ignore the negative sign. So this negative 5 really becomes a 5. This becomes a 3. When it's already a positive, so for example, absolute value 4, it is still 4 because it's 4 away from the origin. Well, when you're 16, when you get to 16 years old, roughly 16 years old, in school they will introduce you to complex numbers. So normally your number line looks like this. When you're 16, roughly 16, you will do what's called complex numbers. So the whole thing here is your number plane. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't understand this. In the future, you will. So, for example, 3 is here. This is a number. The number 3 is a number. Negative 4 is a number. It's a number. Well, this thing here is a number. This number happens to be 2 across plus, and then you go 1, 2, 3 up. So it's going to be 3i. You see, this collectively is a number. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't understand this for the time being. When you're 16, you will be taught this in school. So for example, what is, you see this thing here is a number right here. Well, this number here is negative 4 back, negative 4, and then negative 2, well, 2 down, so that would be minus 2i. You see, this collectively is a number. It is a complex number. So this here is a number. Well, anyway, I could ask you, hang on, this here is a number as well. This number happens to be 4 across and 3 up. So this is a number. Well, I could ask you, what is the absolute value of this number here? This is a number. What's the absolute value of it? So the absolute value of it is really the distance away from the origin. So to work out the distance away from the origin, you have to use Pythagoras. So you can see a right-angled triangle here. Your job is to find x, the distance away from the origin. So this length here is 3. Across, it's 4 across. So we can use Pythagoras. We can say x squared equals this area here, which is 9, 4 squared, which is 16, plus 16. So add these two together, that would be 25. So x is really 5. What that means is the distance, this distance here is 5. So what that means is the absolute value of this weird number here is actually 5. So really the absolute value of a number is a distance away from the origin. So let me give you, let me illustrate this further. If you were to draw a graph of y equals x, it would look like this. So when x is 1, y is 1. When x is 2, y would be 2. When x is negative 1, y would be negative 1. When x is negative 2, y would be negative 2. So if you're trying to investigate y equals absolute value of x, well, here it's negative 1. So when you take the absolute value of negative 1, this moves up to positive 1. So it moves up to here. What is the absolute? So here it is negative 2. So absolute value of negative 2 is the number 2. So this negative 2 gets moved up to positive 2. So your overall absolute graph will look like this. It will look like this. So next time, if when you're asked to draw the graph y equals absolute value of x. Well, draw your y equals x as normal. Draw your y equals x as normal. This is your y equals x. Well, here it gets moved up to here. Here it gets moved up to here. So your overall absolute graph will look like this. Will look like this. Okay. So let's look at another example. Y equals 2x minus 2. So our task is to draw the graph y equals the absolute value of this weird thing here. Well, draw your y equals 2x minus 2 graph as normal. So the intercept is -1, and this is 0, and so on. So the absolute value of 0 would be 0. So it stays the same. If you look at this here, this is -2. So the absolute value of -2 would be +2. So this point here gets moved up to +2. Gets moved up to here. This is -4. So absolute value of -4 will be 4. So this will get moved up to +4. It will get moved up to here. This is -6. Absolute value of -6 is +6. So this point gets moved up to +6. So your overall graph will look like this. So y equals the absolute value of 2x minus 2 will look like this. Will look like this. So in short, if you're asked to sketch the graph of y equals absolute value of 2x minus 2, just draw your graph y equals 2x minus 2 as normal, which will look something like this. But then you discard this and just do your, well, remember this is -2, it becomes +2. This is -6, it becomes +6. So your overall graph will look like this. Okay.